Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew: Keith Johnson,
happy belated first contact,
Alan Seiler,
Stella,
and Veronica Dashel.
Hi.
And we're joined by special guests tonight from the StarPodLog Podcast, Nayr and Kavura. Welcome, guys.
Greetings and felicitations.
welcome.
Hip, hip, hurrah, tally ho.
Yeah, and tonight we're going to be doing our Stellar Fest debriefing. If you listen to the show, we've been talking about Stellar Fest for like 6 months, so we didn't want to leave anybody hanging. For those who couldn't make it,
now we're going to talk about it even more.
Even more. So if you're missing the convention already, we'll be looking back at it tonight. And if you missed the convention, then you get to hear about a little bit of our experiences there. We had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nayr and Kavura, I mean, how did you guys enjoy it? Because before we get into it, we've been working on this convention for a year, so we're pretty invested in it. But I mean, how did it go for you guys?
Well, it was an experience. So of course we had to drive a long way to get there, not like you guys. And so we got there Thursday night. But we thought the con was a lot of fun. I mean, we didn't know what to expect either. It was a first time convention and everything, a hotel we haven't been to before. But we loved it. We did our panels and just thought it was great. It was very well organized. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of people there, so we were happy.
Yeah, we actually prefer fan-run conventions far over corporate conventions.
Yeah.
And this was more of a family reunion for us, reuniting with friends and making new friends. And that's the best thing about conventions that are of this size and they're run by passionate fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dragon Conference is a big part of our lives, but I mean, you got to park blocks away. It's hard to get a hotel. It's a sea of people. That one year when it rained and everyone rushed inside at the same time, and it was like you're on the planet Gideon and nobody could move, and it was just miserable. So I mean, but we used to go to little local cons all the time, performing as Felt Nerdy before the pandemic, and a lot of the ones around here have sort of closed down since then. So it's it was so great. I missed this kind of convention.
And I really wouldn't call this a little convention.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd say it was intimate. It was it definitely wasn't little. It wasn't like a dozen people sitting in a room twiddling their thumbs. I mean, there was a lot of activity there, a lot of buzz, a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a comment that I've gotten several times, is that it has great energy. Which, I mean, for me, the experiences are great, the panels are great, but really what I'm looking for is that it's the hanging out with my fellow nerds, getting away from the energy at work and getting, back to hanging out among the nerds. It's great to recharge. And I thought, I agree. I thought it had a great energy, but it's small in the sense that you can just park in the parking lot and walk in. You don't have to.
Oh, super convenient too, to restaurants and the highway and everything else. Absolutely. I love the location.
Yeah.
And that is what I told my friends about it being intimate. I mean, we sat and talked to some friends for a long time at this one, and it's good that we have a chance to do that we can catch up with our friends in Atlanta. And at Dragon Con, it's a little harder to do that because everybody's running somewhere at Dragon Con. Everybody's in a hurry to get somewhere, so you don't have as much time to stop and talk. Yeah. So that's one thing that's nice about this.
And at Dragon Con, when you and a friend both have the same hour free, you might be in different hotels 3 blocks apart.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to hook up sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Now, Keith, you sort of got drafted into this convention. we drug you along. Now, did I hear you say at one point that this is the first time you have been on a panel at a convention?
It is. First time I've ever done that. I've never done
Wow.
Yeah.
What an oversight.
That's so true.
I've been to Dragon Con several times. Yeah, it's the first time because remember when I was supposed to be with you guys at Dragon Con, and I ended up. I was sick. I had a bad case of vertigo, and I literally couldn't even stand up, let alone drive. So yeah, this was the first time I had done this, and I was a little worried because I mentioned to Charles 2 weeks before the convention. 2 people at my job came into work sick, and I was like, crap. And then 2 days later, I got whatever that cold virus is that's going around, and that thing knocked me down for the better part of a week. And then when I got over that, I was okay. We just had a little bit of allergies. And so I didn't get there Friday night because I was taking Benadryl every night, and I was sleeping like 10 hours, which I never do. And then And then even Saturday, I didn't feel my best, but I was telling Charles, it's 15 minutes from my house.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's awesome for that convenience.
Yeah, I got in the car and I drove there and I was there. And then I was like, oh man, can I park? I found a parking spot. I walked in and I was there. So yeah, that was the first, and I never sat on a panel before. So that was really fun to do. So I sat on a panel with Charles and that was fun. Talking to Sandra Gempel. And that was really cool. And then did panels with Matt and Elaine Sweatman. And then Monica and I did another panel on future of Star Trek. And Alan was in the room with us. So it was really fun. I had a great time just talking to folks. And I also told Charles that several people kept stopping me and thanking me for the convention because they see me on panels. I was like, well, I didn't organize it, but I'll pass it on.
Right. You're welcome.
Yeah,
exactly.
But like you said, they loved it because they could just walk in. They didn't have to do all the parking. Even when it rained, it wasn't the biggest deal as it would be at Dragon Con. For people who live in the Atlanta area. Yeah. So that was just really fun. And even then, a couple of days, I walked across the street to the Bahama Breeze. I didn't take the car, just walked over there, got something to eat, and came back. So I had a blast.
That's awesome. I was really surprised to hear that you hadn't been on a panel at a convention, because when I was putting together the Star Trek schedule, I ended up with a couple of holes, and I ended up just filling them. I was like, well, I'll just pick a topic and put me and Keith on a panel, and me and Keith would sit down for 45 minutes and talk, about Star Trek, no problem.
Right.
And I didn't even consider that you had not done that before. So I mean, you were fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So I have a question for Chuck.
Yes.
Keith has never done a panel before. You have never organized a convention track before.
Right.
I want to know how this was for you and what did you learn from it?
It was good. I got some things wrong. One of the biggest ones was I scheduled Stephen Manley at 11 a.m. on Sunday without looking to see when the checkout times were in the hotel. The checkout times for everyone's hotel rooms was 12. And so that panel was, I think, it had very few guests, very few people watching, because I think everyone was dealing with that. There was the rush up front to get checked out of the rooms and stuff. And I should have thought ahead and looked at when the checkout time was and planned that around that. And I didn't. Things like that. That's okay. I thought the room ran smooth the whole weekend, especially Saturday. I was a little worried about because we did an early workshop starting at 8:30. I had to get special permission to open the room for our fan film shoot in the room. And then we also hosted a party that night that ran until 1 a.m. And so that room was running from 8:30 a.m. to 1 a.m.
1:30 a.m.
That's true. I left at 1 and you left at 1:30.
Yes.
But it was just stacked and there was no breaks in between. There was no setup time built into the schedule for the party, nothing like that. So we were just going the whole time. But the biggest problem we had in our room was that the air conditioning. Because there was a problem with the air. I think it may have affected your room as well, but apparently those two rooms are on a different circuit than the other rooms are. We had a guy from maintenance in there Friday, and all he could do was bring in a fan, but it was one of those big like industrial fans, and he opened the Star Trek track room.
No, the Star Wars.
The Star Wars track. Well, it's also the Star Trek track room door. You're on the other side.
Sure.
And then pumped in cooler air.
Because it was freezing over there, apparently.
Yeah. So, So the biggest thing for me, I was trying to keep the doors open as long as I could in the panels to let the cooler air in, but then it would get too loud. You get the TARDIS out noisy. There, and
but I'm just saying that's the beauty of fan-run conventions: are the quirkiness, the randomness. Like these are the things. 20 years, we're going to be looking back and saying, "Oh, remember that? I was just sweating." But guess what? I love Star Trek so much, I just trudged through it. Like.
I like your attitude. But like I was just saying before we started recording, if that's the biggest problem I had all weekend, that's great. That's a great
problem.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah. Let me get some comments from some viewers because there's some people who were at the con. Matt Sweatman says, we had a blast at Stellarfest. Thank you for all you did to make it such a memorable experience. And Elaine Sweatman says, Stellarfest was a blast and I'm ready for next year.
I also want to add that this was the first time Elaine and Matt had run panels as well, and they did amazing. Elaine and Matt came in with like PowerPoints for their panels and everything. They had like talking points, and they were ready to go. It was you guys did awesome.
Yeah, Elaine did a panel in my track room also, and she had a PowerPoint going, and I said afterwards, Elaine, thanks so much for using the AV. I don't think anybody else did. And she goes, oh yeah, I picked that up from you because I had done panels at Conjuration and had used the AV, so she knew that it was a thing. Our buddy Wayne says that Veronica, you cut a mean rug. And Elaine says, "Yay, Keith, you were great on the panels."
Thanks, Elaine. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Matt and Elaine were great. And their first panel, I was a little nervous about because I'd originally scheduled them for 7 p.m. on Friday, but there was a scheduling conflict with the person who was after them, so it got flipped. So they were going on at 9 p.m. Friday, which I was like, oh, I hope someone shows up for their panel. But they did. And we actually
had good attendance.
A good attendance for that
panel. It was like 18 or something like that.
It was a lot of people who were drunk. And so they had to do a little bit of wrangling of the crowd because they were very engaged in talking back and part of it. But they did great for being their first panel and dealing with a drunk crowd Friday night at 9 p.m. They did a great job.
We also saw Matt and Elaine's panels. So some of them, they were good. Yeah, we liked them too.
I love fan panels. Fan panels in general are the favorite part of all the conventions that I go to.
Yeah.
So as a question for you guys, how many cons do you do in a year? Oh, that many,
huh? Well, of course it changes every year, but
we cut back severely.
Yeah.
We've done the same. Now you guys had a little more, like I was chained to the Star Trek track room the entire weekend. You guys got the chance to walk the con. I mean, what else did you guys see that was good, that you enjoyed or didn't enjoy out there?
The thing that I really wanted to see again, because I saw them at Conjuration, was Noise Complaint. You know, the tap dance group.
They were fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, and I had never seen them do Star Trek before, so that was really cool to see one of their Star Trek stories going along, and it was funny and cute and absolutely
they're so talented.
Wonderful dancing, because I love dancing and I tap dance too, but not like that, and it was really great. Other stuff they had, the Other Worlds track.
The Other Worlds track was excellent. Yeah. Just the variety.
There were so many things in that track that I wanted to do, and I couldn't do it.
Yes.
There were so many things I would have loved to sat in on.
And I got to say, it's probably one of the best social lounges at a con that we've been to. I mean, we go mainly to conventions to hang out with our friends. Like, we'll have a list of all the panels that we want to do, and then by the end of the con, half of them we don't get to because people catch us in the hallway and stuff. And that social lounge was excellent. Didn't have food there, just light, soft drinks, but a lot of couch space and chairs, and just I'm at the point now where I can never be myself at work in my real job. Ever. I can't talk to people. I can't express myself. But when I'm at con, I can be myself. I'm around other people that have the same passions.
Mm-hmm.
So that coffee house, I mean, we loved all the coffee. They made something called Ractigino, which, and we heard, like, one of our friends asked, like, well, how did you make that? And they found out what it was made out of. And Nayr actually made it for me. And he did. And it was pretty good.
It's a heavily spiced coffee. Did you guys try that at the lounge at all?
But I want to get that recipe.
Fantastic.
I went up to the lounge and it was really nice.
Yes.
I didn't have the Ractigino.
I mean, it was a huge space. What is that space normally used for? Do you know? Like, if it wasn't a con there?
Just a hotel room? Or
it's a big hotel suite. Yeah.
Yeah. That entire floor is like a suite.
Wow.
That was a massive suite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice.
The whole con was excellent.
Yeah, it was one of those. I was surprised at how many things were there, and I've been involved in the planning. You know, at least it's my part of it for like a year. But I mean, it's like, hey, what's in this room? Oh, it's the Georgia Reptile Society. Hey, what's in this room? Oh, it's a center. Like everywhere you turn, there was something going on. It was amazing.
Yeah, and Chuck, I don't think you even got over to the dealer's room except for like very, very briefly.
No, I went through it once, but I don't need to hang out in the dealer's room. I got enough stuff. I did end up buying this collection of audio cassette tapes, where it looks like someone has recorded episodes of Next Gen off of TV. And so I found that and I made a deal with the guy for it. And I was like, this is a really cool, weird thing. I want to listen to it to see if I can identify what year they were recorded.
So commercials and everything, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't played them yet.
It was funny.
I used to record TOS on audio cassette. Yeah, that's neat. I never thought about like trying to sell it or something, but
who would think that?
It was funny because
idiot would buy that.
because everything was going on, I didn't really look at schedules or anything. So I would walk around, hey, Charles, when am I supposed to be here? Then I just sit in the room and go, what's next? And he'd go, I don't know.
No, I knew, but it's somebody talking about Star Trek every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then because I didn't look at anything, I'm walking in the hall and there's a dude walking in the hall toward me with this huge snake on his arm. I'm like, what the hell? I had no clue there was a room full of reptiles. I'm not scared of snakes or anything, but I didn't know that was there. Yeah. And it's like, oh crap, what do you know? And then I stumbled into the dealer's room because I didn't even look at the map or anything. So I just wandered around between panels. And I went into the dealer's room, and then I, for those who can't see, and I bought this from friend of the show, Mark Maddox.
Oh, wow, that's gorgeous!
It is awesome. For those who can't see, I am holding up a picture of Mr. Spock from The Cage in those cool first episode uniforms with the phaser as he looks like he's getting ready to shoot at the Talosians when they kidnap Pike. Such an awesome thing. I got to sit and talk to Mark and some folks with him for a while. That was a really great time.
So Chris and Angela Seckinger, who organized this thing, have been running Conjuration for 11 years. And this is very much the same formula that they use for Conjuration, except that they had guests. And normally they don't do guests for Conjuration. What they focus on is immersive experience where everything reminds you that you are in this convention space, that you are away from the real world. And they had so many cool things here with like the bridge flight simulator and the thing that simulates you flying the speeder through the forest of Endor, stuff like that. That's like activity based that just gets you fully immersed in the experience of being where you are. And they do such an amazing job. And the artwork along every hallway of the convention that Chris Seckinger designed and printed out, and I mean, it was like schematics of all
of that.
Yeah, that was cool.
He did.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
We loved all those blueprints of the different starships.
So he did all that, and the promenade.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And like the travel posters, visit Vulcan, and I mean, just amazing stuff. Like everywhere you went, there was something new to look at.
Those are great. I snapped a lot of shots of those because those are really cool. They had there was one of Voyager, the Starship Voyager, did that, and you're right in the promenades and some of the visit. Yeah. I love those posters like that. That was really
yeah. Okay, I have to get a very, very important comment from my buddy Tony, who says, shout out to the band that fell to earth for a great show. That's my band. That is
nice.
the Bowie tribute band that I play drums in. And we put together a special show where we started out with a couple of big 80s hits, but then everything after that was all like on brand. It was a lot of hits, but a lot of like really important deep cuts that are, well-known songs, but they were all like sci-fi based. And man, we had such a fun night. We had so much fun putting that show together, and we had a good crowd and really enjoyed it. So Tony, thank you so much for mentioning that. And I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And Nayr and Kavura, had you guys ever seen Sandy Gimple before?
Numerous times.
Yes, we have.
Mm-hmm.
But she's always a delight. Yeah, she was very nice, and we spoke to her, and she remembered us too.
Oh,
she was
nice.
Very nice. Yes.
Isn't her
you're very memorable.
Amazing?
What's that?
Isn't her energy level amazing?
Yeah, absolutely.
From what I was told, she's still working.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She's 80 years old.
Around.
Yes, that's amazing. Good for her, man. I'm so impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean, the breadth of her career, she's danced with Fred Astaire. She's done stunts with Sacha Baron Cohen. I mean, that's a huge range.
One of Elvis's principal dancers in his movies, which I thought was pretty cool. She said she always, when she tells people that she danced a lot of Elvis's movies and she knew him, the first question is, did you date him? And when Charles and I were interviewing her, she said, I wanted to work. I wanted to keep a job. No, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But that was pretty wild.
And we did ask her once before that, can you confirm that Elvis was a Star Trek fan? And she said he definitely was.
Hey, excellent.
There you go.
Elvis was a huge Star Trek fan.
That's awesome.
He made one of his horses Star Trek. which is really strange in itself. Yeah.
Right.
If you've ever been to Graceland before and you see his audio video room, he had rows and rows of televisions because he would watch multiple TV shows at once. And so he would have Star Trek on those televisions. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I love the fact that she has a book and it's called Falling for the Stars. And it's funny because falling is a theme for hers, because she said when she was a dancer and some dude just basically said, hey, have you ever considered stunt work? Which she hadn't. And he basically told her she would need to learn how to fall. And that's kind of been like her thing, is falling. And so she told a lot of stories about falling, or ideally not falling, or falling in a controlled fashion. So I love the name of her book. She even told, I thought it was a really great story about, I think the panel Charles and I did with her, where she told a story about how she did this weird stunt with a motorcycle where she literally had to hang off the side of a cliff 100 feet up. And I guess there must not have been a net there for some reason.
Oh my God.
And basically the rigging they used had to do something with tying rigging around the tree and all this crap. And,
it was, they didn't have a backup. They just had the initial one in the ground, but she insisted they do a backup safety on the tree. Yep. And that's the only reason she's alive, because she insisted on the backup.
God.
Yeah, and it was such a cool lesson for a couple of things. Anybody who's new to any industry or business, there's always somebody who's been around longer tells you, go away, kid, you bother me, shut up. And then her being a woman, one of the first stunt women to work on that level, it took strength to go say, hey, I want to check this, because some people said, don't worry about it. And like Veronica said, that would have been her life and the guy hanging on the side of the cliff with her as well. Just amazing stories. And the funny thing, I asked her later on, off panel, has she ever been seriously injured? And she said no. In her entire stunt life, she never had a really, really bad industry. That's amazing, especially after that roller coaster story she told you and Elaine, Veronica.
Wow.
Yeah, she told a story about this Rottweiler stunt where they put a cage of food on her chest.
Yes, that's great.
And they told her, like, whatever you do, just don't put your arms up when the Rottweiler hits you and fall with it. And then she said the guy was across the way getting the Rottweiler all agitated up, and she got a little nervous. I was like, after the panel, I was like, Keith, how much would they have to pay you to do that? It's insane.
No amount.
But she was fascinating. I recorded both of her panels. Keith and I interviewed her, and that one I'm going to put on Earth Station Trek. And then Veronica and Elaine interviewed her, and that one's going to go out on the Monkeying Around podcast. And when you asked her about being on the monkey, she said, no one ever asked me about that.
Yeah.
I was just going to get that, because two last comments. Wayne asked if the Bowie show was recorded. Yes, it was. And the band has seen it, and we'll have it out for other people to see very soon.
Yay, because I was missed it.
Elaine says, I love that we were the first ones to ever ask her about the monkeys.
That's insane.
That shocks me that no one...
Like, she was like the featured dancer in there.
I don't think she said no one has ever asked me about that. She said no one ever asks me about it.
Okay.
I don't know that I don't know. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it's never. I think it's not common.
Sure.
Yeah, because what she always gets is the salt vampire. I mean, that's explosion,
Oh, and how she goes to have a salt vampire in front of the room.
Yeah.
Right. But also, I mean, she was in the Monkeys as a dancer, so it doesn't appear on her IMDb.
Yeah.
And so you have to sort of know that that's her.
She could add that to her IMDb. Quote, like parentheses uncredited in parentheses.
Okay.
People do it all the time, and it's a legit credit.
Okay. Yeah.
She should absolutely add that.
Yeah.
Or we could add it for her.
Yeah. So I recorded like 15 panels. Now the ones who have their own podcast and things, I just sent them the files so they can choose to release it or not release it. But the ones that we were on will be coming out on the Earth Station Trek feed. So you guys can look forward to that.
Bonus
everybody involved in that gold key reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't record the gold key reading, but
yeah,
let's talk about that, because Veronica, you organized several big events for the Star Trek track. So let's start with that one, because Nayr and Kavura were on it.
Yeah, so Chuck had this idea kind of based on the Subspace Rhapsody picture show. It was like, hey, we should do a live reading of a Gold Key comic. And originally it was going to be a lot more, but we kind of scaled it back. And we'll build it up as we go. We'd eventually like to do some like actually acting it out and
a little more props and gags.
There
was
and
going to
whatnot.
be a puppet in it, but we didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
So it was really just a reading this time.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic because the cast didn't have any chance to rehearse together before the thing. So it was just and now we're on. You know,
Which was great.
Yes.
That we didn't really know what to expect.
The spontaneity was beautiful, and Veronica, I have to say, you stole the show with all your different voices. You're like the James Doohan of the cast.
Nice.
Which is hilarious because I don't usually do voices in our puppet shows. I almost never do voices because I can't hold it very well. But these lines were short enough and I would change enough between them where I could do it well enough.
Yeah. So you were the narrator. You were Janice Rand. Well, just Yeoman Janice, as they call her in the comic. You were also at one point Scotty. You were Sulu. I
didn't realize Scotty and Sulu had lines in that because Chuck had gone through and like written out the script and we had the thing, and they weren't cast members on the list, so I hadn't assigned them to anyone. So as I saw the names coming up, I was like, oh crap. So those were on the spot voices.
You're fantastic. You did awesome.
Well, you did great. I'm sorry. I was going to say Nayr and Kavura played Kirk and Spock.
Yes,
so. He did. Yes, and we had a lot of fun too. And I was going to say all the other people in the cast did a great job. They were all great voice actors. So it was a lot of fun. And I was like, oh gee, I can't believe everyone else in this is so good. But
you guys
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys were really playing Kirk and Spock. Like you guys got their cadences and everything. You guys were great.
Yes.
And then Keith. I don't remember your character's name. Do you remember your character's name?
Oh, I don't. He was the coward.
Yeah.
Squirrel. Squirrel started with an S.
You were one of the alien spacemen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were fantastic too.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That was real fun because it was an old school radio play. And unlike Charles, I didn't read the old Key comics growing up, even though I've been a Star Trek fan for decades and decades. And so some of it was really funny, like the one where that planet and Spock says something like, yes, we need to destroy this horrible planet and get out of here. And I sat there and I said,
the audience is just cracking up.
Yeah, I was like, Spock just advocated genocide and destruction of entire ecosystem. Those were really funny. I love that.
That was one of the things I enjoyed most about it is the audience reactions. Because when you're reading it yourself, you're like, oh, but then to hear a whole crowd go, oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So if they weren't there, just the way it was set up was everyone's at their mics and reading it. Some of them are in costume, but also the panels are appearing on the screen. And so people can read along with the comic while it's being acted out. And everybody was fantastic. We'd like to make it a recurring thing because there's a lot of things you could do to build it, add little things to it, but also you could swap out comic issues and do different little stories. So we'd like to keep it going. But I thought it was great. I thought you guys did a fantastic job.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm really jealous about the idea. I wish I had thought of something like that.
Next year.
I think it's great.
You would love it.
Is there Doctor Who comics?
Well, yeah, there are, but I don't want to do it now because it's been done. But back in the Wholanta days, Martin and Ashley, who ran the Doctor Who track there, used to do script readings where of unmade Doctor Who stories. Yeah. And particularly the script that was originally intended to be the 8th Doctor television movie, but then it got totally rewritten into something else. And so they used to do that with sound effects and all this kind of stuff. So we at least do have a history of that. And I got to come up with some cool shtick like that for next year. I'm very excited about it.
That's right. I did all the sound effects too.
That's right. Veronica did the phaser sounds and things.
Yes.
But reading them as they're written, I was like, wee, and things like that as they're written on the page.
She did a great job with that too.
Well, it was really fun for me because I did grow up on radio plays. So for anybody who grew up listening to radio plays, and what is always fun is to watch radio plays being recorded. I go all the way back to not, of course, living, but watching the War of the Worlds, the famous War of the Worlds, podcast.
Yeah.
Laughing, used to have the guy that hold his hand to his ear, talking about the fickle finger of fate and so forth. So that just took me back, and that's always fun to have a bunch of people stand around one microphone. That was really enjoyable.
Let me get a couple of comments that are relevant to our discussion here. And this is Matt, who says, like James Doohan and Majel Barrett in the animated series, Veronica did a lot of voices. Yeah. Elaine says, I hate that I missed the Gold Key panel. That would have been fun to see or be in.
There's always next
And Tony says, it was great to see all of you and to finally meet Keith at the Earth Station Trek book launch.
Same here, Tony.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were so excited about the book launch too. That was another highlight of the con for us.
Well, thank you. Because I mean, we've been doing this podcast for 4 years now, and that's the first live panel we've ever done with all four of us together. Which I mean, that's a big milestone in of itself. So that was a lot of fun. But also, just getting our book out there that we've been working on is exciting.
So basically, the first time the four of us have ever done a panel together, it was basically talking about us.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Next year, we have to do a panel, the four of us, on some top. I mean, I don't know how we'll come up with a topic idea. I don't know. I don't know if Keith can generate enough, like 20 or 30 different ideas that we can pick from.
Yeah.
The book launch was really cool. It made me feel important because I actually forgot a couple of people's names, so I felt like I was a real celebrity. But no,
it wasn't us, was it?
No, it was Nick, because Nick came up and I'm used to Nick being bald, and he had the
cap on.
He had the cap on, and then so I said, blah, blah, blah. He goes, "It's me, Nick. I've been on your show." Like, oh crap! And then I said, "Nick, you got hair." So of course I know you, dude.
Yeah, I think Nick just had a hat on. But
Yeah,
he had a hat on, and Nick recognized you.
Yeah, I know, right? But then it was also really nice of folks like other podcasters and folks to come up and support us with the book. And I thought that was really nice. And people asked us to autograph it, and that was real fun. And when Alan first proposed it, it's so weird because you think, oh, a book, and just the concept of a book, it's like a huge deal. Because I was like it was overwhelming. But then, and Alan did a great job of shepherding us through it. You just write, and you have somebody who edits it, and you just write. And it's like you kind of forget about it's a book. So then I just wrote 4 essays. So then at the panel, somebody said when they were getting one of the books, they said, "You guys gonna do it again?" And I just said, "Of course, we're gonna do a second book. Why not?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We've gotten over the hump of the first one. Getting into it and doing it for the first time is a little bit of a challenge. But now I feel like I'm cooking. I got ideas.
Yes. Same here.
Right.
Do we want to take a quick break for a 30-second promo and then?
Yeah, we should.
Sure.
Hang on, I got to get to that. I was off my. Okay, here we go. Maybe. Here we go.
All right, and we're back. And now, speaking of the big events, Veronica, you also put together a fan film shoot during the convention.
Yes.
You made a short film.
Yes.
At the convention, a short Star Trek episode.
That's what I was doing 90% of Friday that wasn't involved running around and
Saturday.
That's what I meant, Saturday, and getting ready for the party. It was also my birthday all day that day, so that was fantastic.
All day?
All day.
Yeah.
All day.
Well,
and we were really worried about people actually showing up because we had made like a sign up for people to sign up and whatnot, and no one had signed up
for the workshop, because
the workshop for the morning.
We wanted to start it early because we didn't want to. We wanted to shoot a crowd scene, but we didn't want to close down our room for 3 hours of the day. And so we started at 8:30 in the morning, but also the convention is quieter at 8:30 in the morning than it will be as soon as 10 hits and the panel start. The noise around you just sort of grows. But 0 people signed up for it. But we kept talking to people over Friday, and people were interested. And so I had no idea. I mean, it's a big ask, 8:30 on Saturday at a con to have people show up, because you're losing the late night party people. You're losing the arrive Saturday morning and get registered people. So I was worried that it was going to be nobody, and we have no crowd for this scene, but we actually had like 20 people, awesome. And it was great. The people who came were really excited and enthusiastic about it. There's one guy who you may have seen at the convention. He's a dead ringer for James Doohan as Scotty, and he was cosplaying Scotty. He's in it. So Scotty has
Larry Robinson.
What's his name?
Larry.
Okay, he was great.
And so Scotty has a cameo in the fan film, but he actually he showed up at the room a little bit late with an escort because his wife was still getting their badges, and he had told them that I want to do this panel, I want to do this workshop, and so someone walked him over there so they could tell us that he wants to be in it. But yeah, we had like 20 people, and then one of them came up to me afterwards on Saturday and said that she really appreciated it. She's always wanted to do something like that, and that was her first opportunity to do it. And then Sunday, another one of them came up to me and said that she's been telling all of her friends who didn't come to rate it 5 stars in the app and comment that they want to do it next year. So the people, it was a big success. It was a lot of fun, and we got the scene filmed. And then Veronica, you went off and did some additional filming with some other cast members in the hotel room. It was sort of away from the con.
Yeah.
And Elaine was in it. Elaine said later she was sore from her stunt work. There was a big fight scene.
Yeah.
Well, she needs to take lessons from Sandy Gimple.
I know, right? Elaine had to learn how to fall.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we were in a hotel room, and I had to kind of like take things down so it didn't look like a 21st century hotel room, and add some stuff and hide all of our stuff for the convention.
Right.
In the little tiny closet that we had. But it was a lot of fun, and it went really well. And for the most part, we just kept cooking the entire time, and I actually timed it out quite well, the way that it balanced out with the people, so I didn't have a whole bunch of people standing around for hours not doing anything, which was good.
Yeah, and Nick, our buddy Nick Wright was in it, and Jim, the host of the Monster Attack podcast on the ESO Network, was in it.
Nice.
And Lauren, who you know from Subspace Rhapsody Picture Show,
he was the skinny guy that was also in Gold Key Comics reading. Yep,
and Elaine from Elaine and Matt Watch TV. Yep. So yeah, it was. You guys had a good cast, and it looked like. I thought it went really well. Considering we're trying to at a convention also shoot a film, I thought.
Yes.
And Randy Landers from Timken Pictures was super nice to come down and offer to do it, and I think it was a real benefit to us to have him there.
And we know Randy Landers. We've actually been in some of his fan films too, and he's a great guy and a great director. And I did hear someone talking about how he made sure everybody had something to do, which is great. And I remember him doing that when I was in another film with him. He likes to at least give everyone a chance to be in the spotlight, even if it's just for a few seconds. So yeah, that's really great about him. And he makes good films.
Yeah, he does. And I've known Randy for like 15 or 20 years. And we used to be in his fan films when he was in Birmingham, and I was the script editor for Potemkin Pictures for a while. But since he's moved to Virginia, we haven't had a chance to do
Virginia.
it. Kentucky?
Where did
Lexington.
Yes.
Somewhere far away from where I live.
Yeah.
Far enough away that it's not a day drive.
Farther than Birmingham was 2 hours, so we could do that pretty easy.
And also it was an hour. We got back an hour.
Right.
The fun thing about him is, if you look into back issues of StarLog magazine, he was in many times the letter columns. He was writing to StarLog. Like, that guy has a deep history in Star Trek.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yep. Okay, Elaine is being a little chatty, so let me get some comments from her because these are pretty relevant. The first one is, this is about the ad that we ran on the live show, which was for a book called Women Take the Con. And she says, I needed that book before doing my Women in Trek panel. And Elaine also did a Women in Doctor Who panel in my track. And Elaine, there's an idea that we've come up with for next year for a similar panel if you're interested in doing it. And I'll talk to you separately about that. She also says, I enjoyed filming Saturday afternoon. I'd love to do it again. And thank goodness for the bed to soften my fall. And she says that she got Bobby Nash to sign her script. So I don't think we mentioned that the script was written by our good buddy, Bobby Nash, who is an author who successful.
Award-winning Bobby Nash, I think.
Yes, award-winning.
In the Atlanta area, and who we've known for years and years and years, and he's just a great guy and has written a number of Star Trek scripts for fan productions, and this is his latest one.
Yep, and he'd written the story that Veronica previously played this character in. So I reached out to him and asked him if he'd be willing to bring her back, and he was great. Of course, we love Bobby.
Oh yes.
And so yeah, that was a success. And then we hosted the Star Trek party with karaoke, which we'd never hosted karaoke before, but got really good response to that. We had like 50 something people over the course of that evening. Yeah, it's funny because you have the log where you keep track of how many attendees are at each panel, and then the one from the party is like scribbled out 3 times, and like it looks super drunk. It's like the messiest and like all over the place.
Appropriate,
right? And I was a Ferengi the whole time, so it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
How hot was that mask?
The mask wasn't too bad. That costume actually has like a jacket and a cloak, that didn't make it 2 seconds into that party.
Nope.
And so I was just wearing a vest and the mask. It was fine. I've worn hotter costumes than that before.
Okay.
He used to walk around the Dragon Con with a cone head.
Yeah, I used to. Conehead used to be my go-to Dragon Con costume. But then Nayr and Kavura, you guys hosted a panel called Star Trek 2000. Did you guys want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, so we did a panel on what it was like to be a Star Trek fan in the year 2000, because it was so different back then than it is now.
Yeah.
But right when Voyager was about tying up and everything, and it was just, and the internet was sort of new. Not everybody was on the internet back then.
Yeah.
So really different experience. There were still a lot of magazines back then, instead of just looking things up on Google now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was back when arguments about a fact could go on for years until you found the evidence.
Absolutely, yes.
Like you and your friend would just disagree for 5 years about an actor that was in a movie until one of you could prove it. But you guys did a fantastic job. I thought that was a really great panel. That was a really interesting panel.
Thank you. Yeah, isn't it crazy to think we are now a quarter into this century? 2000 was 25 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
I know adults who weren't alive yet.
Yes. Yeah. One thing that kept one of the panels we were talking about when you guys talked about Star Trek in 2000 is that was back when people started saying people were having the Star Trek fatigue. And that was when you were starting to, as the Berman and Braga era was coming to an end. And then you went into the doldrums for a while until J.J. Abrams and company resurrected it with the movie in 2000.
This isn't necessary, Keith.
Right.
Yes, there was a long time when there was no Star Trek, after Enterprise ended, and some people didn't like Enterprise. So even even then,
Charles Face did.
I have heard about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then Alan, did you want to talk a little about how the Doctor Who track went?
I would love to. So I ran the Doctor Who track, which was right next door to the Trek track with an air wall dividing us. I think we need to talk Chris into setting our rooms up differently next year. But for the most part, it went pretty well.
Yeah, because we were basically back to back across the air wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Doctor Who track, I ran the Doctor Who convention here in town for a long time. And I was really, really thrilled to get back into doing Doctor Who programming at a convention. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. Mm-hmm. And we had a good turnout for everything. And there was like a core group of people who came to every panel that we did. Mm-hmm. It was so great.
Nice.
And obviously we had some topics that did better than others as far as an audience draw. And of course, there's always times where you're not going to get as many people. I think the first time that Marta Kristen did a Q&A, you're not going to have as many people. And of course, Sunday morning when people are trying to check out of the hotel, you're going to lose people, and that's to be expected. But we did a couple of things. One, we're making a documentary about the convention that I used to run, Timegate, which then became Wholanta, and we unveiled our first big trailer for the documentary, and we had a packed room. It was a good turnout for that.
Awesome.
And the Brandon, my friend, who is basically the camera guy for this documentary, was sick and did not get to come to the convention. But Susan, who was the co-founder of the convention with me, came up. And we just talked about starting the convention and, sharing memories. And I showed the teaser trailer that we put out 2 weeks ago. And then at the end showed the new trailer. And we just had a great time. Another one of the highlights was I had planned a Doctor Who Jeopardy. And there's a website called Jeopardy Labs where you can build your own Jeopardy game, and it keeps score for you, and it operates the way a Jeopardy board does. And I put together a really good game. Unfortunately, it only took half of the panel time. So for the rest of it, you can find anything you want on the Jeopardy Labs website. So I just pulled, and most of them are terrible. Most of them are just the crappiest written things with bad punctuation and stupid questions that you don't know what they're. So I just went and found random people's other Doctor Who Jeopardies, and we just pulled them up and just ran through questions, and we howled with laughter. That may have been during Gold Key, and I am so sorry if we stepped on. I mean, there was just some funny.
We didn't
stuff.
notice anything. We were too busy.
I was going to say we didn't come over and complain during any.
You did not, and you certainly could have if you had. But the whole weekend was just great, and it was my other podcast, Doctor Who A to Z. It was me and my two co-hosts. We basically ran almost everything. We had some panels that were organized by other groups, but for the most part, at least one of us was on every panel, and most of them, it was the three of us. And we just had the best time. It was so fun. We recorded some of our panels also that are going to go out as podcast episodes. And luckily, the two big ones that we recorded, it was a 2-part discussion. So we did a part 1 and a part 2. And we had the liveliest audience discussion of any of the panels we did that weekend. So luckily, those are two of the ones that we chose to record.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Nick, our buddy Nick, ran a trivia game in the Star Trek track, and he did a phenomenal job. It was the most organized thing I've seen. The first section was on a Kahoot, so everybody in the room could play, or they could be on teams. And then he went through all the questions, and then the finalists from that he brought up front, and then had the Jeopardy board on the screen, and then they played Jeopardy at the end to see. And it was, I mean, precision. It was. I think he ran like 5 minutes over the time. Like he nailed it. And it was great having him there because he's big into the Doctor Who track at DragonCon, or the Star Trek track at DragonCon. And so I put him on right before the party so that we could do our running around that we needed to do. And I feel confident that if Nick had a little hiccup, he could sort it out himself and continue on,
Absolutely.
But he did a fantastic job. So I really appreciate it, Nick, if you hear this.
Yes, I was very sorry to not have been able to stay for that. I had to run and get the gach. My mom was 15 minutes away, so I stored the gach in my mom's fridge.
Veronica made gach for the party. So that's the kind of party we throw.
I had to hide from my dog, who was also staying there. So my mom brought it out while she was like, "No, you stay inside." And I was like hiding under the window so my dog couldn't see me, and I like reached up and grabbed it.
Yeah, and we had a punch bowl that we're not going to discuss the contents of because we're not supposed to. And we had a happy first contact day cake, and we had snacks. But it was easy to justify because it was also Veronica's 40th birthday. And so even if we were at home, we'd be buying some snacks and a cake and a punch bowl. But it was fun to share it with 50+ drunk karaoke singing Trekkies. We had a great time. We had that room rocking though.
Yes,
it was fun. That was a really fun night. That was a good. That whole that part of the hallway where our track rooms were was hopping because all in your room, man. It was great.
It was great. Yeah, we had a great time.
And I have to ask you said numerous times next year. We're hoping that this is going to be a continuation.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's going for next year. And now at the closing ceremonies, they had mentioned the first weekend in April, which is April 3rd to the 5th. But I saw on Facebook that they discovered that April the 5th next year is Easter.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Easter is your fault?
Yes.
I don't understand that joke.
It's my birthday.
Okay. And so I think they're moving it to the following weekend. So that's not official yet, but keep an eye on the Stellarfest page because
it'll either be the weekend before or after. It'll be one of those two, and they have to sit down with the hotel and see which one they can do.
Right. But no, I thought it was a huge success, and they had over 700 people attend.
750 is what I heard.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it was big enough
How many have that many for the first time? I mean, that's amazing.
It's a great attendance, and they had enough going on to keep all those 700 people occupied. So it wasn't like it was too many people in one room. It really, at any point for me.
Yeah. And the function space is so spread out that it, even with 750 people, it never was crowded. There is so much room for audience growth in that building.
Agreed.
Well, even in the, I was just taking a break between panels, and there was. Did y'all see the thing where the two ladies did the trapeze, the art acrobatic stuff?
Yes.
I didn't get over to see that.
It was cool, Veronica. One lady was dressed like Ms. Marvel, and the other lady was dressed like a red shirt, maybe Uhura. It was a sister, and I think she was Uhura. And then they just got up and they started doing. They were just flying up, and then with the little silk things that you do, and the lady was dressed as Ms. Marvel. I think it was intentional. She went up like 20 feet in the air, and then she dropped. And I swear she stopped with her head like 6 inches from the ground.
Yeah,
it was amazing. But I didn't expect to see Miss Marvel and Uhura doing those kind of dance moves. Those kind of moves. It was cool.
That's the kind of thing that happens at a convention.
Yeah. At least this convention.
Yeah, those people perform at Conjuration also, but they theme it differently, for the different conventions. Yeah. But they're wonderful. They're really good.
And I had a question for y'all because I know Charles and Veronica, y'all drove in, and I know Veronica definitely wore costumes like Charles, sounds like you did. Y'all came all the way from Tennessee, so you had to pack up, and I saw you in Star Trek costumes, so you had to pack up costumes on top of everything else, right? To come to the
convention. We're used to that though. Yeah,
okay. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
Wow, I just took an extra change of socks and I was all stressed out. So
yeah, we have to make a list and make a list of all our costume pieces, so we'll know what to pack and everything. Yeah. I mean, there have been times like we're wearing Star Trek uniforms and we forgot to pack the badges one time, so we just didn't wear the costumes. I mean, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier in the comments, and I forgot to put this one up, but Elaine said that she really enjoyed seeing Moxie Magnus at the convention because I don't think we'd seen her in quite a while. But what you just said reminded me of a time way back at my convention, Timegate. She lives in Savannah,
Georgia. Yes.
Drove up to our convention, had not packed any of her wigs. Had to drive back to Savannah to get the wigs. Drove back to Atlanta to.
Oh my God!
You can't do Moxie without the wigs.
Wow,
that's amazing.
That's an 8-hour round trip.
Exactly.
That's assuming that
you didn't run into any traffic.
The interstates cooperate with you.
Yeah.
Right.
You gotta get past McDonough for it to be 8 hours.
Holy cow,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I wanted to say, while you guys were on, that one of the first things I did when I started working on this track was start messaging all my cool Trekkie Facebook friends and like, hey, make sure you know about the convention. And you guys were great. I know you had to originally you weren't going to be able to make it, but then you were able to make it. So I really appreciated everybody coming down, and I appreciated seeing you guys. And it means a lot for folks to come out to the convention.
Oh yeah, what we did too is we printed out flyers and posted them in all the comic book and gaming stores in our area. Wow. We want to be part of your street team and just help build a buzz, because all fan-run conventions desperately need the help of fans to keep it running, to keep it promoting, to keep we are the convention.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate conventions don't have to worry about that.
No,
but we all need to do our part to keep this alive.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Here, let me get a couple last comments because Tony says that the panel with the documentary trailers was like a Timegate Wholanta reunion.
That's awesome.
And our buddy Nick is watching, and he says it was a blast working with you guys. Glad you enjoyed the Trek trivia. It was a lot of fun. I'll have to share notes with Alan. And he says, also, still don't know what that gach actually was.
Okay, so
first off, was it good, Nick?
Yeah, really.
Yes. So it was udon noodles, and if I'm remembering correctly, because I tried to find the recipe the other day to share with someone, and I have no idea what happened to the recipe, but this is the one I've used before. But it's like it's a pound of the udon noodles. It was more than a pound in that one, but this is like the recipe. It's a pound of udon noodles and 4 ounces of Asian sesame sauce and 4 ounces of soy sauce. And you mix it all up and let it sit overnight and then serve.
It's good. It doesn't actually taste like flatworms.
No.
Right.
But it has the gach look.
Yes. That's the important part.
Right.
So we gotta have Nick on the show soon.
Yeah.
I love, again, the best thing about this con was talking to friends, actually having conversations, because at some larger cons, sometimes you can only say hi and goodbye in passing.
Yeah.
He's one of those super Star Trek fans that I love to be able to just sit down and talk with them. That was a highlight, just when I'm seeing these names flash across the screen. When I walk away from that convention, the whole drive up. Now, we had to drive through the rain, so it took us roughly 7 hours to get home.
Oh, wow.
But we had a lot of time to decompress and just say, wow, we're glad to have a conversation with this person, and this person.
Mm-hmm.
That was the best thing about this con, is uniting all the fandom, but especially from the focus of this group, Star Trek fandom.
I'm glad you guys loved it. Hey, wouldn't it have sucked if you've been drawn back going, man, that sucked. We got a 7-hour drive home.
Yeah, trust me, it happened at some conventions before. You're like, oh, I'll never do this again.
Yeah.
Yep.
My final thought, because like I said, I'd never sat on a panel before, so I was really glad Charles asked me to go. I really loved it. And now I'm looking forward to sitting on panels. I didn't know Matt and Elaine had never done a panel before either, because they were so incredibly organized. Matt had a table of contents. He had things outlined to do. They had the slideshows, the presentation. That was good. But the thing that got to me, you guys talked about talking to somebody. I talked to a lot of people I'd never met before, which is just wild. Sandy Gimpel mentioned about being 83, whatever she is, and walking all the time. And the lady behind me started telling about her mother, who's the same age as Sandy and has health problems. We talked for like 30 minutes. And then I think the thing that got me is I saw a ton of people with physical disabilities, wheelchairs. There was one guy who had a prosthetic leg. There were people with oxygen tanks, people on canes, and they were all having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And several of them thanked me. And I think a lot of it is because it's not a Dragon Con where, getting down there and just getting around. And the thing that really got to me, I was walking down the corner and I heard this guy laughing. He was just having a great time. And I looked at the guy and he was just smiling. He was animated. He was having a great time. He goes, I love this thing. And he was talking to a friend and I saw a wheelchair. I said, oh, he was in and then I looked, he did not have a lower body at all.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of the regular security people.
He's a very regular presence at all.
Yeah, and he was having such a great time, and there were so many people. And one guy even told me, again, he thanked me like he thought I was one of the organizers. He's like, man, this is great, and I have trouble getting around, and this is just fun, and I have the greatest time. And I think that reminds me of why we do science fiction and fantasy and comic books and Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who. Because you go there and you're just one of the people. It doesn't matter what you look like, your color, your physical disability, whatever.
Right.
And when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is so fun. This reminds me what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now, before we end it up, do you guys want to tell folks what StarPodLog Podcast is about?
Okay, we do StarPodLog and StarPod Trek. Mm-hmm. So StarPodLog is our general sci-fi and fantasy podcast, and StarPod Trek is, of course, just Star Trek. But on both of them, we go through StarLog magazine. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It was popular mostly in the 70s and 80s, but it went on to the 90s and early 2000s. Yeah. So we're going through each issue of StarLog magazine. And StarPodLog, we talk about sci-fi fantasy articles, and StarPod Trek, we talk about all the Star Trek articles. And so now we're up to 1985 for both of them. So we go through StarLog magazine, plus we talk about, we have other guests on our show that talk about their fan experiences. And we discuss a few other things like the cons that we go to. And so we just have a lot of fun with that.
That's awesome. And you guys had suggested coming back on sometime to talk about StarLog magazine, and I think that'd be great because I used to love StarLog magazine.
Yeah, me too.
That would be so fascinating.
That was our internet,
right? Exactly.
That's how we found out about conventions. That's how we found out about rumors. Everything.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been a lot of fun, and it was so great to see you guys this weekend. And I really appreciate you guys coming down and giving us the support. And I'm
really been our pleasure, and we want to congratulate you again on a successful convention. Fantastic, and congratulations on the release of your book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so where can folks find StarPodLog and StarPod Trek?
We are on Facebook. We have a Facebook group that's called StarPodLog and StarPod Trek Podcast, and we're also on Facebook under the name Nayr and Kavura. And we're also on Instagram, so you can find us there under @StarPodLog.
And you can listen to our podcast on Blogspot. You'll see the links on our Facebook groups. So join us.
Yeah, and the podcast is, well, it's everywhere. It's on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, Alan, where can people find more of you?
Okay, go to cosmiccreative.com because there you will find information about our Star Trek book, about the documentary that I'm working on, about my other podcasts, which include modern musicology and Doctor Who A to Z. There are links that jump you right to those various platforms and all the other crazy nonsense that I love doing.
And how about you, Keith?
You can find me on Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups.
And how about us, Veronica?
FeltNerdy.com.
That's right. And if you're in the Atlanta area, we've got a bunch of shows coming up. So follow Felt Nerdy for our family-friendly, all-ages stuff, and Felt Nerdy and Dirty. We've got an upcoming adult-oriented sort of burlesque puppet show coming up.
Star Trek puppet show.
Yeah, Star Trek-themed adult puppet show.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be April 26th.
Yes.
At the Red Light Cafe here in Atlanta. So follow Felt Nerdy or Felt Nerdy and Dirty to keep up with that stuff. Where else can people find us?
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
That's right. And if you missed Cindy Gimple at Stellar Fest, soon we'll have an interview with her up, and then right after that, I think will be Dino from the New Monkeys. We'll have his interview up as well. And if you watch us on YouTube and you don't subscribe to our audio podcast, a lot of the stuff we recorded this weekend is audio only, so a lot of that stuff's going to be on the audio podcast. So give us a subscribe on a podcast platform and check it out.
Hey, before we go, look who just snuck into our chat while we were saying goodbye. Our good friend, Mr. Bobby Nash.
What's up, Bobby?
He says Stellar Fest was big fun. Yes, it was. We love you, Bobby. It was so great to see you this weekend, even though you and I only saw each other like that. But it was really good to see you, and we'll have to have you back on the show again sometime soon.
Absolutely. All right, Veronica, do you have a closing for us this week?
Koshli Stakjaj.
Hey, great job.
Ooh,
you want to tell us what that means?
That means happy birthday.
That's right.
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern talking about Star Trek.
Take care.